24.4 billion kilometers away, the Voyager 1 is drifting through space. Voyager 1 was the very first man-made object to cross the heliopause, that boundary between our solar system and the rest of space. She carries a 12-inch gold-plated copper record. This golden record leaves a clue as to the existence of life and culture on Earth. It is a snapshot of our planet in 1977, and our attempt to leave behind the best of ourselves for when we are gone. As Carl Sagan put it, it's a message in a bottle launched into the cosmic ocean. Voyager 1's journey from conception to factory floor to launch pad and to the edge of the solar system and beyond is a journey into an ever purer and deeper isolation, with only an infinitesimal chance to ever break that spell. I've been thinking about lonely games. There are lots of games that will make you feel isolated in their world. Some are eerie, some peaceful. Sometimes the loneliness in a game is deliberate. It demands the recognition of your solitude and asks you to confront it. Sometimes the loneliness is just a byproduct of the game's design, a happenstance necessary for that game's world to exist. Either way, it must be reckoned with, whether in acceptance or kicking and screaming will depend on the circumstances of the game. Walking through the Shoshone in an orange sunrise in Firewatch is very different to the frigid walk from abandoned shack to abandoned shack in the long dark. Maybe the difference in these two games is that in the first we have chosen to retreat, and in the second we are forced into that abandon. In both cases, cozy and frightening, our player character seeks out human connection as much as it is available. It is one thing to be stranded in recognizable territory. Familiarity with the environment around you can go a long way in soothing our isolation. But what about being alone in an environment we don't recognize? Space has captured the imagination of more than a few developers. Looking out of a space station window and seeing Earth against the black and speckled canvas of space is the dream for many. Looking out and seeing nothing but the canvas is horror for many more. What if, instead of a space station, or even a planet, a game gave us this sense of isolation on the scale of a solar system? What if a game could offer something resembling the scale of the universe, and still allow us to sit under a lonely tree and watch the sunset? I would like to talk about the game No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky's essential promise is an unlimited universe. A number of planets so out of proportion with anything the human mind can comprehend, right at your fingertips. You're introduced to the world of No Man's Sky with little in the way of tools for survival, and you have to explore your home planet by foot to find what you need. This exploration was the main promise of the game. What or who would you discover? No one's iteration of that new game would be the same, as you found different plants and animals on your first journey. My habit of starting a new game over and over again since launch can probably be linked to that excitement and hope of new discovery. You soak in everything, every strange rock and tree. You huddle away from a blizzard or firestorm in true fear for how it may rip through your suit. You are alien to this place, just a visitor, and you are alone. Once your ship is online though, and you break through the clouds for the first time, even the stars are not your limit. At this point, you will have a small base on that first planet, and it is yours. Uploaded into the shared database of discoveries, your name is forever linked to that first place. You have not met anyone else. That promise of discovery is what was so magical about No Man's Sky. We've long been chasing those biggest maps in gaming. Some gargantuan feats like Elder Scrolls Daggerfall have maps over 200,000 square kilometers big. That's like the whole of the United Kingdom, with fewer swords. Dragonfall is massive, and that's aided by its procedural generation. Minecraft is a lot like No Man's Sky. It's infinite and procedural, but its generation is limited in variety and its worlds are fairly familiar. Biomes in Minecraft are recognizable and predictable, and the promise of the game is in what you can imagine and create in your solitary land. In the early versions of No Man's Sky, at least, you could not build anything. You were just passing through, an interloper on a galactic journey to discover what has already been made, whether by ancient civilization or just the clashing of space dust. And God, now it looks glorious. No Man's Sky has always been aesthetically breathtaking and surprising. I remember standing on a planet with a sky entirely blocked out by its sister planet, warping to a pink nebula of a solar system with triplet stars, and flying over impossibly carved mountains adorned in purple grass. No one, not even the developer, had seen these exact sights. I was a true pioneer, the first on that mountain, to duck my head into this ocean, to break through these clouds. These moments alone, I knew why I was playing. But that awe only lasts for so long. Space is an impossibly isolated place. You don't really need to see the numbers to realise that. They tend to go over my head and scale anyway. But when travel through space in fiction is often measured by years and lifetimes, it's easy to see why the Final Frontier lends itself so well as a setting to explore not just physical, but mental isolation. It's not difficult, though, to conceptualize a future where the broad reaches of emptiness between stars becomes intangible or irrelevant, whether through sheer concentration of human settlements or some faster-than-light technology which renders the distances obsolete. No Man's Sky settles itself in an unusual in-between. There are no motherships with millions of inhabitants or homeworlds populated with megacities. But we never feel the time between solar systems either. We walk between them in seconds. The game is concerned with keeping itself full of detail. That's a good thing, from a gameplay perspective. But it leads to a strange perspective of the universe and its true nature. No Man's Sky feels like a lonely game, but it never really has been. You'll soon find a space station populated with vendors and NPCs. You won't know their language, and you'll be called Traveller, Anomaly, Interloper. Interloper feels like the correct term as you realise that this universe is connected. You're just not part of that network. Nowhere is really empty. In fact, you're late to the party. There has been time for these outposts to have been settled and abandoned, to rot and fester. Civilizations have risen and fallen on the ground you are walking. But the space between these links of civilization is where you traverse. There are other NPCs, other travelers and anomalies who share your experience of trespass in the world. They might acknowledge the sensation of isolation and maybe try their best to cope with you. Alone, but not always lonely, you will meet them and share your discoveries. They might be genuinely grateful. They may describe unimaginable settings to you and spark your imagination of the universe all over again. The NPCs of No Man's Sky aren't completely avoidable, but they do occupy comparatively little space in the universe, right? There is a wider political economy that runs throughout the galaxy as well. You have to partake in this economy for your survival in those early parts of the game. As you get used to it, though, you can exploit the economy and organise your fleet of frigates to perform efficient trade runs to harvest millions of credits without much effort. At that point, though, once you have learned the alien languages and learned how the economy really works, what are you left with? What good is it to continue deeper into the galaxy and unknown if I am now entrenched within it? If it is essentially known? If I can exploit and run circles around everyone I find, the loneliness has changed. After about 10 hours on a save, I am unrecognizable as that helpless, sheltering cosmonaut on my first planet. Frightened and perhaps in awe of the possibilities of the world, and unsure of what could be over the crest of the hill, the reality of the infinite used to be palpable. Now, coursing through black holes into more of the known, with everything I could want, the infinity feels shallow. Do I continue to make more money and build up my base? I would do it for myself, but I was never strongly motivated once my survival stopped depending on it. I faced a choice. Become a strange settler in this universe, or fall through the gaps into the malaise of aesthetic exploration, never interacting with anyone or anything beyond quiet recognition. Even with the new features, 30 or more updates since launch, the universe slowly reveals its shallower construction as you navigate the galaxy. Perhaps you are an anomaly because you recognize this. Maybe the game knows this as well as you do. In our galaxy alone, there are between 100 to 200 billion planets. And within the known universe, between 200 billion to 2 trillion galaxies. Ever since we gazed up at the stars all those millennia ago, we have questioned, are we really the only ones around, or is there someone else? We have constantly been honing our technology, creating more and more sensitive equipment in the hope that we might pick up something someone out there has left behind for us. Yet, time and time again, it seems the cosmic distances are too great, and our solitude all too deafening. Maybe we are exceptional. Relatively recently, a signal, FRB 20220610A, has taken 8 billion years to get to us, emitting the same amount of energy in milliseconds that our sun takes 30 years to produce. There were a number of theories as to what it could be. An advanced civilization communicating with us, warning us, answers that could help us rationalize dark energy. It wasn't. It probably wasn't. It has been largely agreed that this FRB is likely a magnetar, a magnetized neutron star. Not another person, another player in our galaxy, just a star in its death throes. As resourceful as we are, though, we have used a number of these FRBs to help build a cosmic map. Much like a game renders in environments, we are slowly building a more detailed diagram of the celestial strands that link our pockets of the universe together. A few updates ago, we got a refinement in No Man's Sky: the story. The Artemis questline is a series of exhausting fetch quests. It gets you moving, but it settles you into a pattern of easily ignoring everything else going on around you. For someone like me, who can't ignore a main quest and enjoy the rest of the game, Cyberpunk, the main quest's annoying loop was offset by its emotional core, which struck me as someone who abandoned the game long ago once I felt it too lonely. Without the deeper spoilers, the quest pushes you on to explore the questions of your sentience and your place in the lonely world. The quest largely ignores the Gek, Vy'keen, and Korvax, and looks to those single strands of connection between outsiders who are destined to never cross paths. Maybe a commentary on how the game felt at launch, this game's narrative feels like an acknowledgement of every feeling I had when I wanted to give up on it. To be fair, I've neglected to talk about one part of No Man's Sky: the multiplayer. We now have multiplayer. We have a hub station, joint missions, and expeditions. The ability to bring a friend or stranger into your corner of the universe has changed everything. Now it's even harder to figure out what No Man's Sky is. A massive sandbox where toys keep getting added and you can join your friends? Now you never have to be alone. You may adopt an alien creature as a pet and have it join you on your journey, or follow a real player along their odyssey. Years ago, this was a possibility we could only dream of. In the lonely space, we craved having anyone to share our discoveries with, to even find. Not to say that the improvements in multiplayer weren't for the better, but maybe we lost something special once the doors to the universe were unlocked. The vibes of a Minecraft world and the vibes of a populated Minecraft server are totally different. Now that we can share this universe on the same digital plane, are our discoveries sacred? Do we take the connection for granted? Maybe we are unique in our desire to find and be found. Is it really the connection we desire, or just the confirmation that there are others out there who can share our playground? One of the theories as to why we are yet to meet another civilization is that we are simply not important or interesting enough yet. What if, like No Man's Sky travelers, bouncing through the galaxy, Earth has just been a pit stop for another civilization to have a small rest before moving on to the next location in their voyage? Roadside Picnic is a novel by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, later adapted by Andrei Tarkovsky into Stalker, and by Deep Silver into Stalker. In the novel, post-alien visitation, all that remains of our visitors' short time are 6 zones, areas where they have left behind their equivalent of rubbish, trash, garbage. Like a squirrel, unable to reckon with a teenager's discarded Thatcher's can, these areas are maddening to humanity. We become fascinated with the interstellar remains. What was discarded and left behind represents technological marvels to us. One of the characters, Dr. Pillman, in describing the zones, says,
"The fact of the visit is not only the most important discovery of the last 13 years, it's the most important discovery in human history. It doesn't matter where they came from, why they came, why they left so quickly, or where they vanished to since. What matters most is that we now know for sure humanity is not alone in the universe."
In my newest save, joined by a new player on their first journey into the Euclid Galaxy, we came across a discovered solar system. Updates and updates and updates ago, back in 2017, this planet I was landing on had already been found. Granted, any physical mark left by this first lone explorer would have been lost by the countless biome regenerations which have taken place since their first warp. But landing and looking around, I found animals that had already been scanned. This was a stop on another person's journey. They were off and gone, and I have no idea where they went next. I have no idea where they are now. Is this now what makes the game remarkable? Not for the strangeness or wonders that No Man's Sky has prepared for you, but for the slim flickers of real connection you can come across in your own journey. In a game like Elden Ring, where players can leave behind helpful and funny and lecherous comments in other players' game worlds, these traces of other people lend themselves tremendously to the character of the world. Give your players a way to leave a mark on another's game, and they will. Voyager 1 has been in space for nearly 50 years. It is on its way to AC plus 793888. A star it will swing by in roughly 40,000 years before it settles into orbit at the center of the Milky Way. We have ingrained ourselves on the disk that it carries, and it goes further and further than we can hope to ever go ourselves. It carries images of us and our architecture, recordings of warm welcomes in languages from across the world, the songs of whales, and why did we do it? To be rescued from our isolation? As the first step in our plan to begin community with whoever is out there? Partly. I think only a little. I think back to the solitary player who discovered that system from 2017, not knowing that 8 years later it would be discovered anew by another player. Sagan, when writing on the motivation behind Voyager's golden record, said,
"Events are occurring at a breathless pace, and no one knows what tomorrow will bring. Whether our present civilization will survive the perils that face us and be transformed, or whether, in the next century or two, we will destroy our society. But in either case, it will not be the end of the human species."
In the cosmic timescales of the universe and the vastness of space and No Man's Sky, it's hard to imagine the minuscule mark we will leave on such a vast canvas. Maybe that first base I built all those game hours ago, which I have since left behind, will now be found and used by another to shelter from that initial storm. One generation plants, another gets the shade. Perhaps it's enough to leave something behind of ourselves for after we are not here to meet. Even if we never know if it will be discovered, even if we close the game or if we never found another, our story may still be written on that galactic map. Even if Voyager 1 is never discovered by another civilization, that record will be there, billions of miles away, millions of years in the future, as evidence that we enjoyed grapes. No Man's Sky is still, at its heart, a game designed to be played alone. I keep logging on to float through space and find peace in its solitude. I can continue on my own quiet journey, skimming my ship over an ocean and building some small monument to my travels that another could trace. In a sense, being that probe. I can be alone, but I don't have to be lonely. On that journey, stopping off to refill my hyperdrive or launch thrusters, there is some small chance that the same sun in that lonely star system has shone or will shine on another Voyager. Just the one.